My dear friends, there comes a time in life when we must ask ourselves, am I living for everyone else, or am I living for God and my true self? Too often, especially as women, we are told that our value lies in always being available, always saying yes, always sacrificing. But let me tell you, when you are available to everyone all the time, you slowly become unavailable to yourself and even unavailable to the higher purpose God has given you. Life is not about being present for every demand people throw at you. Life is about being present for what truly matters: your peace, your growth, your purpose, and your connection with God. Being endlessly available to others may make you look kind on the outside, but deep within, it drains your spirit and leaves you empty. And when your cup is empty, what will you pour into others? True strength lies in knowing when to serve and when to step back, when to give and when to protect your inner energy. Remember, even God rests the universe in balance, so why do we think we must always carry everything on our shoulders? Today, let us talk about why it is not weakness, but wisdom, to stop being the girl who is always available. Imagine waking up every morning with a long list of people who expect something from you: your time, your attention, your help, your energy. Your phone is buzzing with messages before you even take a sip of water. Emails flood your inbox, friends ask for favors, colleagues rely on you, and family expects you to be endlessly available. At first, it feels good. You are helping, you are serving, and everyone seems happy. But slowly, if you are always available, without pause, without limits, you begin to lose something precious: yourself. Being endlessly available might seem like kindness, but kindness without boundaries can quietly erode your self-respect. When you say yes to everyone, people start to expect it. When someone asks for help, they assume you will drop everything to assist them. And if you hesitate, guilt weighs on you. Over time, your energy, and your presence become commodities that others take for granted. And the most dangerous part is that you don't even notice it happening because you are so used to being the one who always says yes. Think about the friend who calls you at midnight just to vent their frustrations. You answer because you don't want to disappoint them, even though you have an early morning meeting or need rest. Or consider the colleague who constantly shifts their work onto your plate, assuming you will handle it because you are dependable. Or the family member who asks for your help repeatedly, not realizing that every favor chips away at your mental and emotional space. These are everyday moments where being too available quietly drains you. Your spirit becomes tired, your voice becomes soft, and slowly you start questioning your own worth. Here's the thing: being available all the time creates a false sense of value. Many people believe that if they are always there for others, they are good or worthy. But that is a trap. True worth is not measured by how much you give, how fast you respond, or how many times you drop everything for someone else. True worth is measured by your alignment with your purpose, your respect for yourself, and your ability to protect your inner peace. When you give endlessly without boundaries, you teach people that your presence is limitless, that your energy is infinite. And nothing in life is infinite. Not time, not energy, not love. Even God gives us moments of rest, pauses to recharge, and spaces to grow. Let me share a simple daily example. Imagine a woman named Aisha. Aisha is kind, compassionate, and generous. Her colleagues rely on her constantly. Her friends call her to solve their problems. Her family expects her to manage everything at home while keeping everyone happy. She feels proud that she is needed, but deep down, she is exhausted. She wakes up tired, goes to bed drained, and rarely has time for herself or her own spiritual practice. One day, she notices something strange. Despite always helping, people no longer appreciate her as they once did. They take her for granted. Her self respect has diminished, and she feels invisible in her own life. She realizes that being available without limits has slowly stripped away her sense of self. This is why limits are essential. Respecting your time and energy is not selfish, it is sacred. When you stop being available for everything and everyone, you start to honor your own life, your own needs, and your own calling. You begin to understand that every yes you give comes at a cost, and that cost must be weighed carefully. Saying no when necessary does not make you unkind, it makes you wise. It is a declaration that your life is valuable, that your peace matters, and that your presence is precious. When you practice this, something powerful happens. People start to notice. Noticing that your attention is not endlessly available forces others to respect it. Your self-respect grows. Your relationships improve because they are now built on genuine connection, not expectation. Your energy is preserved for moments that truly matter. You can engage deeply with those who need you, and you can also devote time to God, to your purpose, and to your own spiritual growth. Remember, even in creation, there is balance. Rivers have banks to guide their flow. Trees need roots to stand strong. Sunlight gives warmth, but also needs the night to shine again. Being endlessly available is like trying to keep the river flowing without banks, trying to grow a tree without roots, trying to shine without pause. It is unsustainable. Protecting your limits is not arrogance, it is alignment with the natural order. So today I encourage you to reflect, who am I saying yes to when I should be saying yes to myself? Where am I losing my energy to endless demands, and where can I reclaim it? The moment you set boundaries, honor your time, and respect your own presence, you begin to rise. You stop being the person everyone expects and start being the person God designed you to be. Full of purpose, balance, and inner strength, being available is noble. But being available without limits is destructive. Protect your self-respect, protect your energy, protect your soul. Because the world will not value what you give endlessly, but it will honor what you give wisely. And in that wisdom, you will find freedom, peace, and true fulfillment. Think about this for a moment. God created you with a unique soul, a divine purpose, and gifts that no one else on this planet possesses. Every talent, every dream, every spark inside you has a reason, a calling. But when you are constantly available to everyone, helping, pleasing, accommodating, you run the risk of losing sight of that purpose. You begin to live your life for everyone else, rather than for the mission that God has placed within you. Let me illustrate with a simple example from daily life. Imagine a young woman named Sarah. She is talented, creative, and passionate about writing. Ever since she was a child, she dreamed of inspiring others with her words, of telling stories that touch hearts, of creating something meaningful. But as she grew older, everyone around her had demands. Friends needed her to listen to their problems. Family needed her to take care of chores and responsibilities. Colleagues relied on her to finish tasks for them. And gradually, her own dreams were pushed aside. She was always available, always helping, always giving, but never creating for herself. One day, Sarah realized she hadn't written a single page of her own story in months. Her passion, the very reason she existed, had been overshadowed by endless obligations to others. She felt frustrated, empty, and disconnected from the person God intended her to be. That is when she understood a profound truth. God did not create her to be used. She was not meant to be a constant service machine, a human doormat, or a never-ending solution for everyone's problems. God created her to fulfill a purpose, a mission, a calling that was uniquely hers. Being constantly available to others may feel noble, even righteous, but it comes at a cost. When you live solely for the expectations and needs of others, your own purpose gets delayed, or worse, forgotten. You were not created to live a life of exhaustion and invisibility. You were created to shine, to inspire, to contribute something only you can contribute. Every time you say yes to someone else at the expense of your own calling, you are saying no to the divine plan within you. Consider another example, a young professional, Amina, who has a gift for teaching. She dreams of opening a small learning center to help children in her community. But at work, her superiors constantly ask her to take on extra tasks. Friends rely on her to solve their personal crises. Family members seek her guidance on every minor decision. Amina becomes so busy being available that she postpones her dream indefinitely. Months pass, and she begins to feel a deep emptiness, a sense that her life lacks meaning. The realization hits her like a spark. God did not place her here to be endlessly used. She was created to serve a higher purpose, to teach, to inspire, and to contribute to something greater than constant service to others. This is the lesson for all of us. There is a difference between serving and being used. God calls us to serve with intention, with love, and with joy. But being used, when your gifts, your time, and your energy are consumed without consideration for your own growth, is a deviation from the divine path. Purpose requires focus, energy, and presence. If you are always available, you are dispersing the very resources needed to fulfill your mission. You are given a unique set of skills, talents, and passions for a reason. Protect them, nurture them, honor them. Let's also look at it from the spiritual perspective. Every moment you live in alignment with God's purpose, your life becomes a living prayer, a manifestation of divine will. Every talent expressed, every dream pursued, every act of intentional creation is an offering to God. But if your life is consumed by endless availability to everyone else, that sacred offering gets lost. Your life becomes reactive instead of proactive, scattered instead of focused, and your divine gifts remain dormant. So how do we reclaim our lives and align with purpose? Start by asking yourself, am I living to fulfill God's purpose for me, or am I living to fulfill everyone else's expectations? The answer may surprise you. Then begin setting gentle but firm boundaries. Learn to say no when a request does not align with your purpose. Understand that honoring your time, your energy, and your calling is not selfish. It is sacred. By protecting your focus, you allow your divine purpose to flourish. Every great achievement, every act of inspiration, every life-changing contribution comes from someone who recognized their divine purpose and refused to be used endlessly by others. History is filled with examples of women who honored their calling and changed the world, not by being available to everyone, but by being fully present for the mission God gave them. Remember, you are not here merely to please or serve every passing demand. You are here to create, to inspire, and to fulfill the purpose that God planted in your soul. By stepping back from endless availability, you do not stop serving. You begin serving in the most meaningful, powerful, and divine way possible. You stop being used and start being purposeful. The moment you embrace this truth, your energy transforms. Your actions become intentional. Your relationships improve because you engage not from exhaustion, but from alignment with your purpose. Your life becomes a testimony to God's wisdom, a living example that fulfillment comes not from being everywhere for everyone, but from being fully present for what truly matters. So today, let this be your declaration. I will no longer be used endlessly. I will honor the gifts God gave me. I will protect my energy. I will say no when needed. I will focus on my purpose, because I was created not to be available to everyone, but to be purposeful, impactful, and aligned with the divine plan within me. Boundaries. It's a word that can feel uncomfortable for many of us. It can feel selfish, harsh, or even unkind. But the truth is, boundaries are not selfish, they are sacred. They are a divine gift, a protective measure, and a necessity for living a life of purpose, peace, and alignment with God's plan. Without boundaries, even the most generous heart can be drained, even the most capable soul can be scattered, and even the most faithful spirit can feel lost. Imagine a young woman named Hina. Hina is caring, empathetic, and always ready to help. She answers every call, responds to every message immediately, and rearranges her schedule to accommodate others. At first, she feels proud of herself. She believes that being constantly available is a mark of kindness and devotion. Friends call her reliable, colleagues call her helpful, and her family calls her dependable. But slowly, a creeping exhaustion sets in. She feels stressed, overwhelmed, and disconnected from herself. She cannot focus on her personal goals. She cannot nurture her spiritual practices, and she starts to feel invisible in her own life. The problem was not her kindness. The problem was her lack of boundaries. Boundaries are like the banks of a river. They guide the flow of life, protecting its energy from spilling uncontrollably. Without boundaries, your life becomes a flood, spreading yourself thin, losing your essence, and diminishing your inner strength. Saying yes to everyone without pause may seem noble, but it quietly erodes your self-respect, your focus, and your ability to fulfill your true purpose. Let's look at a real life scenario many of us can relate to. Consider the colleague who constantly asks you to take on tasks that are not yours, the friend who calls repeatedly to vent without ever offering support in return, or the family member who expects you to drop your plans to meet their demands. Each of these moments is an opportunity to practice sacred boundaries. Saying no in these situations does not make you unkind. On the contrary, it protects your ability to be fully present for the responsibilities and relationships that truly matter. Boundaries are sacred because they honor the life God gave you. God created you with a limited amount of time, energy, and attention. These are precious resources, not to be wasted on endless demands that do not align with your purpose. By setting boundaries, you are respecting the divine gift of your life. You are declaring that your time, energy, and focus are valuable, and that you will invest them wisely in ways that honor God and your true path. Consider the spiritual perspective. Even God set boundaries in creation. The universe flows in balance. Day and night, ebb and tide, action and rest. Everything has a limit, a rhythm, a boundary. If the sun shone endlessly without pause, life would be destroyed. If rivers flooded without banks, the land would be ruined. Boundaries are not restrictions, they are life-sustaining structures that allow energy to flow meaningfully and purposefully. Similarly, your personal boundaries allow your energy to be preserved, your spirit to flourish, and your actions to be intentional rather than scattered. Let me share another everyday example. Imagine a woman named Zoya who is deeply spiritual and wants to dedicate time each day to prayer, meditation, or studying sacred texts. But her family and friends constantly demand her attention. At first, she feels guilty when she sets aside this time for herself. But over time, she realizes that her spiritual practice is the foundation of her strength, her compassion, and her ability to help others meaningfully. By protecting this sacred space through boundaries, she becomes more present, more peaceful, and more effective in every interaction she has. Her boundaries are not walls, they are pillars that support her ability to serve others without losing herself. Boundaries also teach others how to treat you. When you communicate clearly about your limits, people learn to respect your time and energy. They learn that you value yourself, and they begin to value you more in return. You no longer become the person everyone can take for granted. Instead, you become someone whose presence is cherished, whose contributions are meaningful, and whose energy is protected for what truly matters. Remember, boundaries are not about rejecting people, they are about honoring yourself and the divine purpose God has placed in your life. They are about choosing where to invest your precious energy, choosing who deserves your time, and choosing actions that align with your higher calling. By saying no to distractions, over demanding expectations, and draining relationships, you are saying yes to your purpose, your growth, and your spiritual alignment. In practical daily life, boundaries can be simple yet powerful. Setting specific work hours and not answering emails after, limiting time spent on social media, politely declining favors that overextend you, or reserving time each day for personal reflection and connection with God. Each boundary is a sacred act of self-respect, a declaration that your life is precious and that your energy is not for waste but for meaningful impact. So, my friends, embrace the sacredness of boundaries. Recognize that protecting your energy is not selfish, it is spiritual wisdom. When you establish limits, you align with God's natural order, honor your own worth, and create space for a life of purpose, balance, and fulfillment. Boundaries allow your kindness to be powerful, your service to be intentional, and your presence to be meaningful. Without boundaries, your gifts scatter. With boundaries, your gifts shine. Step into this truth today. Your life, your energy, and your purpose are sacred. Guard them with boundaries. Protect them with intention. And watch how your world transforms when you honor the divinity within you by saying yes to what truly matters and no to what drains your spirit. There is a common misconception that our worth is determined by how much we give to others, by how often we say yes, how many favors we perform, or how much time and energy we dedicate to people who demand it. Many of us have grown up believing that being kind, helpful, and always available is the key to being valued, loved, and respected. But here's a truth we must embrace. Your worth is not measured by how much you give away. It is measured by the alignment of your actions with your purpose, your integrity, and the love and respect you have for yourself. Let me paint a picture for you. Consider a woman named Meera. Meera is generous to a fault. She is always the first person her friends call for help, the first one her family expects to handle every crisis, and the one at work who picks up every extra task. On the outside, she looks like the embodiment of selflessness. People praise her, rely on her, and sometimes even take her for granted. She gives and she gives and she gives, but internally she feels empty. She is exhausted, overextended, and unfulfilled. Despite all that she gives, she struggles with self-doubt and questions her own value. This is a trap that so many of us fall into, confusing self-worth with giving. Giving is noble, yes, but it only becomes meaningful when it is balanced with self-respect respect, and discernment. If you pour from an empty cup, your generosity loses its vitality. Your actions may help others temporarily, but they slowly deplete your energy and diminish your spirit. You may be busy helping everyone else, yet feel invisible in your own life. Here is a daily life example we can all relate to. Imagine a friend who always listens to others' problems, offers advice, drives people around, cooks for them, and sacrifices her own plans to meet everyone else's needs. Over time, she notices something troubling. People begin to expect her help as a given. Her kindness becomes routine, not extraordinary. Her worth is measured not by her talents, her dreams, or her essence, but by how much she can give to others. And when she finally stops giving, she feels guilty, as if her value has disappeared. But the truth is that her worth was never in how much she gave. It was always in her heart, her purpose, and the divine uniqueness she carries within her. Even in spiritual life, the principle is clear. God did not measure the value of the trees, the rivers, or the stars by how much they gave to others. They exist in alignment with divine order, each serving a purpose, each reflecting beauty and balance. Similarly, your worth is intrinsic. It is God-given, permanent, and not dependent on the demands of anyone else. When you recognize this, a profound freedom emerges. You no longer live in constant anxiety about pleasing everyone, earning approval, or proving your value. You understand that your life is sacred and your energy is meant for meaningful impact, not endless depletion. Consider the example of Ayesha, a woman who is passionate about teaching children in her community. She initially spends all her free time helping every child, tutoring everyone who asks, and taking on every responsibility without pause. But after months, she notices she is burnt out, unable to focus on her own personal growth, and struggling to provide the quality of teaching she truly wants to offer. One day, she decides to prioritize her energy, set limits, and focus on children she can meaningfully help with her full presence. To her surprise, the quality of her teaching improves, the impact multiplies, and she feels a deep sense of fulfillment. By giving wisely, not endlessly, Ayesha discovers that her worth is not measured by volume. It is measured by intentionality, alignment, and purpose. The same principle applies in relationships. Being constantly available to everyone may make you feel good, but it does not guarantee respect, love, or appreciation. When you give without boundaries, people can take your presence for granted. When you prioritize alignment over endless giving, your contributions become meaningful, impactful, and valued. True generosity flows from a full, nourished heart, not from exhaustion or obligation. Your worth is intrinsic. It is defined by your authenticity, your integrity, and your divine purpose. Giving without thought, without limits, and without consideration for yourself does not enhance your value, it diminishes it. Every act of generosity should come from fullness, not emptiness, from intention, not compulsion. When you honor yourself, you honor God, and your contributions naturally become more powerful, effective, and transformative. So, today, I urge you to reflect. Are you giving endlessly at the expense of your own well-being? Are you measuring your worth by how much you do for others rather than by the purpose God has placed within you? By understanding that your value is not dependent on others' demands, you reclaim your life, your energy, and your sense of sacred worth. You can still serve, still give, still be generous, but now with intention, purpose, and balance. The moment you embrace this truth, something beautiful happens. You stop apologizing for protecting your time. You stop feeling guilty for saying no. You begin to invest in what truly matters, your goals, your purpose, and the relationships that honor your spirit. Your generosity becomes more meaningful, your presence more impactful, and your life more aligned with the divine calling God placed within you. Remember, your worth is not measured by how much you give away. It is measured by who you are, the purpose you fulfill, and the alignment of your life with the divine plan. Guard your energy, protect your time, give wisely, and watch as your life transforms into a source of inspiration, fulfillment, and sacred impact. Time. It is perhaps the most precious gift God has given each one of us. Unlike money, possessions, or opportunities, time cannot be earned back, saved indefinitely, or reclaimed once it is gone. Every second is fleeting, every moment irreplaceable. Yet, how often do we give away our time without thought, becoming endlessly available to others while our own dreams, purpose, and inner growth quietly wait on the sidelines? The truth is clear: time is sacred, and how we spend it reflects our values, our priorities, and our alignment with God's plan. Imagine a woman named Sana. Sana is always available. She spends hours helping friends with problems that are not hers, constantly answers work messages late into the night, and attends social events she does not enjoy just to avoid disappointing others. She thinks she is being kind, loyal, and dependable. But slowly, she begins to feel a deep sense of emptiness. Her personal projects are stalled, her spiritual practice is neglected, and her connection with her own purpose is fading. Each hour she gave away without discernment was an hour she could have spent nurturing her talents, growing spiritually, or pursuing her dreams. Being endlessly available often disguises itself as virtue. We tell ourselves, "I am helping, I am giving, I am kind," without realizing that the time we are offering freely is not always leading to meaningful outcomes. God has placed within each of us a divine purpose, a calling that requires focus, energy, and time to manifest. If we spend our precious hours catering to everyone else's demands, we are inadvertently neglecting the life God designed us to live. Time given to others without intention is like pouring water into a cracked cup. It leaves nothing behind for yourself and diminishes the fullness of what you could offer. Consider the daily life of a woman named Ikra, who dreams of writing a book that will inspire young people in her community. She has stories to tell, wisdom to share, and a vision to create something meaningful. Yet, she is constantly interrupted, friends asking for advice, colleagues needing help, family requests taking precedence. Months go by, and her book remains unfinished. She feels frustrated, disheartened, and disconnected from her calling. One day, she realizes that her time is sacred, a gift from God meant for purpose, not endless obligations. She begins to protect her hours, setting aside blocks for writing, reflection, and planning. Slowly, she finds balance. Her energy becomes focused, her creativity flourishes, and her dream begins to take shape. By honoring her time, Ikra honors the sacred purpose God placed in her life. Time is not just about productivity, it is also about presence. How often do we rush through conversations, multitask during family moments, or scroll endlessly on devices, thinking we are available while truly absent? The most meaningful offerings we can make to God, to others, and to ourselves are moments of undistracted presence. When we give time intentionally to loved ones, to personal growth, to spiritual practice, we create ripples of impact that far surpass the fleeting praise of endless business. Let me share another example. Imagine a woman named Farah, a devoted mother who gives tirelessly to her children, friends, and community. One day, she notices that in caring so much for everyone else, she has neglected her own spiritual practices. her health, and her inner peace. She realizes that God entrusted her with her own life, and part of honoring that gift is using her time wisely. She starts to create sacred rituals, morning meditation, quiet reflection, focused work on her passions. She sets boundaries on requests that drain her energy unnecessarily. Over time, Farah discovers that the more she protects her time for meaningful purposes, the more abundant her capacity to give genuinely becomes. Her presence for others now carries weight, intention, and depth because it is rooted in alignment with her purpose and sacred use of her hours. Every moment we spend must be treated as a sacred offering. Saying yes to endless demands can dilute the quality of your time, leaving little room for God's purpose in your life. Each second is a chance to cultivate growth, strengthen relationships, reflect spiritually, or advance your personal mission. By discerning where your time goes, you preserve its sanctity and ensure that your life is aligned with the higher calling God has designed for you. Time also teaches the value of prioritization. Not every request, opportunity, or distraction deserves your attention. Protecting your hours is not about avoidance. It is about making choices that serve your growth, your purpose, and your connection with God. When you treat your time as sacred, you communicate to yourself and to the world that your life has meaning, your energy has value, and your presence is powerful. So, today, let us make a conscious decision to treat time as the most sacred offering. To protect it, to honor it, and to invest it wisely. Let us learn to say no when necessary, to create space for reflection, creativity, and growth, and to be intentional with the hours we have been gifted. When we do, we discover the extraordinary truth: life becomes richer, impact becomes greater, and our connection with God deepens because our time, like our hearts, is given with awareness, devotion, and sacred intention. Remember, time is the most precious gift you can offer to yourself, to others, and to God. Do not squander it on endless demands that do not align with your divine purpose. Protect it, cherish it, and use it wisely. In doing so, you honor the life God has entrusted to you, and you transform your moments into a legacy of intention, purpose, and sacred impact.